I was taken aback by the news of the cancellation, my shock and anxiety evident in my voice. "What do you mean there's been a cancellation?" I asked, confusion and worry flooding my mind. I was on my lunch break at work and had unwittingly spoken louder than intended, so I quickly lowered my voice. I hadn't requested any cancellations. Why was this happening? My thoughts stalled, leaving me utterly blank. On the other end of the line, the woman from the insurance company remained composed, a stark contrast to my rising panic. "According to our records, we received a cancellation request from you, and the process has already been completed," she explained calmly. I had enrolled in a savings-oriented life insurance policy after my sister-in-law Alice, an insurance agent, had convinced me to choose a more expensive plan to help her meet her high sales quotas. "My name is Betty, and I'm a 42-year-old office worker living in an apartment with my husband, Henry, and our young daughter, Linda." Today had been a whirlwind of chaos from the moment Henry rolled out of bed, announcing an unexpected overnight business trip while frantically packing his bags. Meanwhile, our first grader, Linda, was in tears, distraught over losing her math textbook. She struggles with her schoolwork and needs a lot of help. Adding to the day's turmoil, I found myself wishing Henry could pack his own things without adding to the confusion by asking where his travel bag was or where his new socks might be. This year has been especially tough with Henry, and thoughts of divorce have begun to haunt me more frequently. As I expressed my frustration over their lack of preparation the night before, Linda apologized sincerely. "Sorry, Mom. I'll be more careful next time," I reassured her, saying, "It's okay. I should have checked with you yesterday. That was my mistake." However, managing Henry felt like an entirely different struggle. If he had just taken the time to get ready ahead of time, we could have avoided this morning's chaos. It would have been considerate of him to sort his socks or even pick up a new pair for his trip. Henry's insensitive remarks about needing new socks for his trip deeply irritated me. "I had no idea about your business trip schedule," I replied, trying to mask my frustration. "Aren't the socks I washed and put away good enough?" His insistence on new socks struck me as odd, but I kept my thoughts to myself. His business trips were infrequent, occurring maybe once every few months, and surely this one had been scheduled well in advance. Even if he hadn't mentioned it, if he truly needed new socks, he could have bought them himself or at least informed me earlier. My heart broke at the sight of Linda's tear-streaked face as she pleaded, "Daddy, Mommy, please stop fighting." I turned to her, softening my tone. "Linda, I'm sorry. It's okay. Let's find your textbook together." With that, Henry quietly returned to his packing while I helped Linda search through her backpack for her missing math book. I couldn't help glancing over at Henry, only to notice he was packing casual clothes more suited for a weekend getaway than a business trip. This detail raised a serious red flag in my mind, stirring up old fears. Was Henry having another affair? Given his past actions, my suspicions weren't unfounded. He had been unfaithful twice before. The first incident occurred just before Linda was born, pushing me to the brink of filing for divorce. However, after tearful apologies and pleas from his family, including his mother and sister, I reluctantly decided to stay. Then, last year, he strayed again with someone he met on a dating app. Henry, with his blunt nature and lack of subtlety, believed he was being discreet, but his attempts at secrecy often came off as almost comical to me. When caught, he resorted to tears and more apologies, which was both pitiful and frustrating. I had seen him at his most humble, a stark contrast to his usual arrogance. That time, I made it clear, one more slip-up, and our marriage would end for good. I even had him sign preliminary divorce papers and transfer all our savings into my account as a precaution. Although I forgave him, my feelings for him had completely vanished due to his selfishness and lack of involvement with Linda. I considered postponing the divorce until Linda was older, for her sake. Thankfully, we quickly found Linda's math textbook, and she left for school with a cheerful smile, alone with the remnants of the morning's chaos. I decided to skip making lunch and headed to a nearby shop during my break. While there, I spotted an advertisement for the insurance company and remembered that my policy was due for a bonus payment. Considering the high premiums I pay, these bonuses are significant incentives for me. I started daydreaming about what I could buy with the bonus, maybe some new autumn clothes for Linda. Feeling a little more upbeat, I stopped by the bank to check my statement, hoping to see the bonus deposited. To my surprise, the funds I expected were missing. Not only was the anticipated bonus absent, but this month's insurance premium hadn't been deducted either. At first, I was simply puzzled by this discrepancy. However, as I recalled the chaotic discussion about cancellations with Henry that morning, a sinking feeling began to take hold. Concerned, I decided to reach out to the insurance company to figure out what was going on. My sister-in-law Alice usually handled my insurance matters, but she was off that day, so I spoke with another representative. That's when the cancellation confusion came to light. The representative informed me that a cancellation payment had been processed, but I had yet to see any funds in my account. She insisted that all the paperwork was correct and that the insurance company had followed proper procedures, subtly implying that the fault wasn't theirs if the policy was canceled without my knowledge. I firmly reiterated that I had no intention of canceling the policy. I'll follow up with Alice and my husband, but please double-check everything on your end as well, I requested. After making my point clear, I ended the call. Before I knew it, my lunch break was nearly over, and I realized I had neither the time nor the appetite to eat the lunch I had bought, as other concerns weighed heavily on my mind. Feeling the urgency to address this issue, I informed my boss that I needed to leave early and quickly wrapped up my remaining tasks. Once I left the office, I immediately called Henry, wondering if he was genuinely on a business trip or if something more was going on. "Betty, why are you calling?" "I'm at work," Henry answered after a few rings, his voice tinged with irritation. I could hear lively music playing in the background, casting doubt on Henry's claim of being at work. "It's absurd that you think you can avoid getting caught," I said, frustration seeping into my voice. "Sorry to bother you, but my life insurance was canceled without my knowledge, and there's no record of any cancellation payment. Do you know anything about this? I'm considering contacting the police. It might be a scam." "Ha, calling the police?" Henry replied, his tone dismissive. Then, caught off guard, he confessed, "It was me." I had suspected that Henry and Alice might have been involved somehow, and the moment I hinted at involving the authorities, Henry's quick confession confirmed my worst fears. "So it was you. Where's the cancellation payment, then?" I demanded, my heart racing. "I used it to help Mom out," he replied nonchalantly. "Help out? Did something happen to your mother that she suddenly needed money?" I asked, bewildered. "No, she just mentioned she wanted to go on a family trip for once." I was stunned by his audacity. "You canceled my life insurance to fund a trip? Was the business trip just a cover?" "Yeah, I'm the beneficiary, so you can't complain, right? We're staying at a luxurious hotel. I'm in the lobby right now, and you wouldn't believe the size of the chandelier here." He seemed to think his confession made it acceptable, even bragging about the details as if to impress me. "What's with this attitude?" I countered, infuriated. "I have plenty of complaints. Why would you cancel the insurance without telling me? I've been paying those premiums out of my salary. You should have been able to cover your trip expenses." "Aw, it's so annoying," Henry replied dismissively. "But it's the money I get if something happens to you, right? So it's my money. You're healthy and not in any danger, so we can just start paying the premiums again." I was dumbfounded by his flawed reasoning. "But the terms change as you get older, and the premiums increase. Do you not understand that?" "Well, I'm not the one paying for it," he shot back. Henry's careless disregard only fueled my frustration. Do your parents know about this, that you canceled my life insurance without telling me? Didn't your father say anything? And Alice is involved in this too, right? You and Alice forged my signature, didn't you? Yeah, Mom and Dad were actually happy about it, he admitted, as if that justified his actions. They thought it was a good idea. It's your fault for controlling all our money. I just wanted to have fun for once. He argued as if the situation were trivial. It's no big deal. We're on a family trip, and everyone's happy. That family includes your parents and Alice, right? Why aren't Linda and I included? Aren't we family too? I asked, my voice tinged with hurt and disbelief. Insurance is meant for emergencies. Henry, shouldn't you have discussed using it for a trip with me first? But you knew I would say no. You and Linda are always together. It's fine for me to spend time with my real family once in a while, he retorted. Plus, Alice was planning to sign you up for a new life insurance policy, so it's a win-win. I can't believe you're not embarrassed by these excuses. It's like you're acting like a child who didn't tell because he knew I'd object. That's exactly why you didn't say anything, you knew I'd be upset. It's so frustrating. If you're going to keep complaining, maybe I should just get a divorce. Henry continued, his tone unusually bold, perhaps emboldened by the surroundings of the tourist spot. Understood, I replied sharply before hanging up. Be prepared. I'm going to make sure you and your family face the consequences, I muttered to myself, my patience finally snapping. Henry had taken my forgiveness for granted far too many times. Despite my threats of divorce, I had once thought my in-laws were decent people. Even though Alice had pressured me into an expensive life insurance policy, I believed she wasn't acting with malice. But decent people don't secretly cancel their daughter-in-law's life insurance to fund personal pleasures. Like husband, like family, I thought grimly. I was done with all of them. I went straight to visit the lawyer, clutching the divorce papers Henry had filled out earlier as if they were a talisman. I filed for divorce immediately. Afterward, I picked up Linda from after-school care. On our way home, I gently explained the situation to her. She was initially surprised, but I reassured her, emphasizing that our well-being was my top priority. Linda seemed to grasp the situation after I took the time to explain everything in detail. Once we arrived home, she asked, so, Daddy isn't coming home anymore? He won't be home tonight because he's staying somewhere else. We're getting divorced, so we'll be living apart, I answered cautiously, trying to gauge her understanding and feelings. Then let's start cleaning up now, she suggested. What's wrong? I asked, a bit confused by her urgency. We're separated from Dad, right, Mom? You don't have to cry anymore. I hate it when Dad makes you upset. Linda explained. Didn't you always tell us to stop fighting because you were worried about me being sad? Of course, I admitted. I had hoped to avoid divorce for Linda's sake, but it seemed she had been suppressing her true feelings all along. She often intervened in our arguments, concerned for my well-being. Daddy never plays with me, even on his days off. When I try to talk to him, he just says, "Be quiet. Go away." Like this morning, he only uses me to say mean things to you. I've been so sad. I love you, Mom. Her smile warmed my heart, but it also brought tears to my eyes. Linda's understanding of the situation and her determination to address it were heart-wrenching. It was clear she, too, was ready for a change and felt the weight of Henry's selfishness. I understand, sweetheart. I'm so sorry for the difficult times you've had to endure. From now on, it will be just the two of us, and I promise to take good care of you. I love you so much. Yay, Linda exclaimed, and her joy filled me with newfound determination. I vowed never to let her feel sad again. While Linda worked on her homework beside me, I kept myself busy with preparations. I consulted a lawyer, researched real estate agents, and contacted moving companies. I reached out to my parents to discuss our next steps and gather their support, ensuring that Linda and I would have a strong network as we moved forward. When I explained the situation to my parents, their immediate response was, "Come back home right away. This way, Linda won't have to change schools." My father also offered to borrow a truck from a friend to help us move our belongings. The next morning, I informed the landlord, the school, and the families in Linda's commuting group that we would be relocating to my parents' house, briefly explaining the circumstances. I planned to handle the school's detailed paperwork later and called my workplace to request a day off for the following day. I wanted to complete most of the preparations before Henry returned. By the time Henry got back the next day, my parents had arrived, and we swiftly moved our belongings to their home. Everything was settled except for Henry's things, which were still in the apartment. I left a note that read, "We are divorced. We are strangers now," before walking out for the last time. I imagined the shock on Henry's face when he discovered we were gone, and a wave of relief and satisfaction washed over me. The smooth execution of this divorce was a testament to the lessons learned from Henry's previous affair. I had warned him then, next time, there would be no discussion. We were getting divorced. We had agreed that I would retain custody and all marital assets. With that understanding, Linda and I began our new life at my parents' home. Later, my frantic mother-in-law called. She must have reached out because I had blocked Henry's number. Knowing Henry's tendency to cry easily, despite his usual bravado, I could only imagine him sobbing somewhere. "What are you thinking? Divorcing my son when he hasn't even cheated this time?" she yelled, her voice piercing through the phone. I instinctively pulled it away from my ear. "Betty, it's not too late. Apologize to my son right now. He's been crying nonstop because he's so upset. Aren't you embarrassed to make such a fuss? Apologize to me." Her words caught me off guard, and I blurted out, "Who are you?" My mother-in-law clearly didn't expect such a response, and her voice fell silent. "Well, yes, it's me, your mother-in-law. Come on, Betty, what's wrong with you? You're not losing your mind, are you? You're still young." "No, I only have one mother. Are you some kind of scam artist?" I replied, half joking yet pointedly, refusing to give her the reaction she expected. Now that we were divorced and effectively strangers, I felt no need to engage in a serious conversation. Their past actions, like canceling my life insurance without my consent, made it seem fitting to keep a detached demeanor. "Don't joke around, Betty. If you're going to act like this, we have our own ways of dealing with things," she warned, her voice dripping with anger. "And what exactly can you do?" I countered, skepticism lacing my words. "We agreed that if there was another issue, I'd get a divorce immediately. Henry himself told me over the phone that he wanted a divorce." My firm stance made her pause, and I seized the opportunity to press further. "If you wanted to go on a trip, you should have consulted me first. Instead, you committed a crime. Unauthorized cancellation of life insurance can be considered forgery, punishable by imprisonment. I'm ready to pursue this thoroughly." I was aware of no financial troubles in Henry's family, so their action struck me as not just impulsive but reckless. That was precisely why I couldn't let it slide. "Wait a minute. We can't be criminals. Please. I'm sorry. Let's talk," she stammered, the mention of possible imprisonment causing a sudden shift in her tone. But it was too late for apologies or discussions. I hung up the phone and blocked my in-laws' numbers, distancing myself from any further toxic interactions. This decisive break marked a new chapter for Linda and me, one where we could seek peace and stability away from past upheavals. Later, I learned that Henry was so shocked by the divorce that he quit his job and withdrew from social activities, effectively becoming a recluse. As for the life insurance debacle, We managed to resolve it through an out-of-court settlement designed specifically for such disputes. My sister-in-law ended up being dismissed from the insurance company, which even made minor headlines. The actions of my in-laws turned them into the subject of neighborhood gossip, and they faced criticism from relatives over their poor judgment and disgraceful behavior, leading to their social isolation. With both Henry and my sister-in-law out of work, they appeared to be facing financial struggles. Meanwhile, Linda and I were relishing a happy and liberated life at my parents' home. Despite the challenges the situation had posed for my daughter, I was committed to providing her with all the love and care she deserved. In this new chapter of our lives, we found peace and stability, supported by my parents' love, and we were gradually rebuilding our lives, free from the turmoil of the past.